Throughout Lesson 14, we'll talk about identities in trigonometry. I'd first like to start out with what we call the reciprocal identities. Okay? Let's define them as follows. Cosecant of theta, remember thetas are our angles. Cosecant theta is equal to 1 over sine. Secant theta is equal to 1 over cosine. And cotangent theta is equal to 1 over tangent. Now what we're going to do, we're going to take an expression and we're going to show that this expression is equivalent to the expression on the right. So it says, show that sine theta times cosecant squared theta is equal to cosecant theta. So what we want to do, we want to use our identities to try to show that the left side is equivalent to the right side. Well, if ever you see squared, notice it says cosecant squared, what that really means, it's cosecant theta all squared. Okay? This is just notation. Whenever you see sine squared, cosine squared, cosecant squared, remember, it just means cosecant quantity squared. This is just notation. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the left-hand side, okay, and I'll try to reduce it, and I'll try to make it equal the right-hand side. Well, what does cosecant theta equal? Remember, cosecant theta is equal to 1 over sine theta. So I'll just substitute. I've got sine theta times 1 over sine theta. There's cosecant theta. So that's equivalent. Okay? Now I'll just go ahead and square my fraction here. I'll square the top. That's just 1. And I'll square the denominator. That gives me sine squared. Okay? And we know that that is the same thing as sine theta times 1 over sine theta times sine theta, if I wish to write it like that. That's sine squared. And notice I can cancel a sine, and I'm left with 1 over sine theta. And remember what 1 over sine theta is? That's the definition of cosecant. Okay? So when you're doing these homework problems, we're just really trying to get a feel for these identities. All right, let's see what we did again. We started here. I just rewrote cosecant as 1 over sine. And we squared it. I had a sine to cancel. I'm left with 1 over sine, which is cosecant. All right, let's do some other identities. Write these down. You might want to put this lesson on pause and write down those reciprocal identities. I'm going to show you a couple more identities. Okay, again, write these down. We'll call these the quotient identities. Tangent of theta is equal to sine theta over cosine theta. And cotangent theta is equal to cosine over sine. All right, let's do the same thing we did last time. I want to prove that secant x times cotangent x times sine x is equal to 1. So what we'll do, we'll just take the left-hand side, we'll rewrite it the best we can, and see if we can get it to equal 1. Remember what secant is. That is equal to 1 over cosine. So I rewrote secant. Cotangent is equal to cosine over sine. And sine x, well, that's just sine x. So there's secant, there's cotangent right there, and then there's our sine. And notice my cosines can cancel, my sines can cancel, and I get 1 times 1 times 1. And so I just proved that this expression equals 1. Let's do one more. Your homework, you'll have lots of practice. It says, show that cosine of theta is equal to the following. Okay? So let's just work with the right-hand side this time. And we'll see if we can reduce it to cosine. Well, here I have a cosine cubed. Secant, remember, is 1 over cosine. Tangent is equal to sine over cosine. You might want to have your identities handy when you're doing these problems. And cosecant is equal to 1 over sine. Now, we know where we're heading. We want this to look like cosine. So let's see. The sines can cancel. So I've got cosecant cubed times, here's 1 over cosine times cosine is 1 over cosine squared. So I can cancel 2 cosines with 2 of them up here. And I get cosine. So again, we started with the larger expression, we reduced with our identities, then we got some cancelizations, and we're left with cosine. So what you have to write down, if you haven't already, is our 2 identities, or 2 types of identities. The reciprocals, write that down, and the quotient identities. In the next lesson, we'll get some more identities, and we'll do some more problems like this.